One of the more interesting passages of Scripture you'll find is in 2 Samuel 13. It teaches us lessons on how we should approach the things we want in life, how we should consider approaching relationships, and better ways to think in general. So in 2 Samuel 13, a story you likely already know, just a brief overview of it is that David has two children. They're not purely brother and sister, they're half brother and sister, Amnon and Tamar. Amnon has some sort of perverted lust for his half-sister Tamar, tries to convince her to have sexual relations with him, and eventually ends up raping her. In the latter half, or in the latter piece of the story of Amnon and Tamar, you'll see that right after this instance happens, an important lesson is taught. Amnon goes from having some sort of perverted obsession with his half-sister to hating her and despising her. You can find that in verse 15 of this chapter. So he wants her, he begs her to be with him in a sick way, but then after it's done, he hates her. Incredible. But how many individuals act the same way because they are chasing things that they don't truly want? They're operating off lustful thinking alone. And that's a huge problem. And it gives us some things that we should think about and learn. And the first thing is to get your mind under control. You've got to be in control of your mind and think beyond the present moment. Think beyond the initial benefits of whatever sin it is you're engaging with. There are many in the religious world today who will teach that there is no benefit to sin. That's not true. There actually are immediate benefits to sin, followed by delayed consequences to that behavior. And that's how a lot of things are in life. Take eating, for example. If you eat something, some sort of junk food, it's immediately rewarding because it's enjoyable to eat. But the payment on the back end is that health suffers, fitness suffers. All of these things go downhill. That's the same way that sin works in our lives. It's immediately beneficial, as in it is immediately enjoyable to engage in. But over time, we reap the consequences of those behavior. Amnon could not look beyond the present moment and override his impulses. This is how people get sucked into affairs and other improprieties sexually. They can't think beyond the sexual encounter and think into all of the consequences that would result from that behavior because their mind is not under control. Their emotions are hot and they aren't able to command those things. We have to approach these situations with some awareness. Every decision, bring more awareness to it. Think beyond the immediate benefits of whatever it is that you're doing. You have to put yourself into the future and start thinking about the trickle-down effects of the actions that you're engaging in. If an individual eats junk food again and again and again, downstream effect, he's going to be far overweight and he's going to have no level of fitness. Same thing applies to the health of the spirit. Engaging in immediately enjoyable behaviors now will damage the human spirit further down the road. So we have to get the mind under control. We have to be aware. We have to think into the future and consider the consequences so that we can act appropriately now. Secondly, we have to reflect on what it is we actually want. Amnon did not want his half-sister, not really. All he had was a sense of lust. He didn't have any real desire. There are many things in life where, even on a smaller scale, people pursue things that they don't actually want. They pursue things that others want for them. They pursue things that society says is good, and so they start chasing them and are surprised when they don't have any sense of satisfaction with their life. It is the role of the individual man to reflect on what he wants, not consider all the other outside opinions until far later. Not that he should never consider what anyone has to say ever, but that he should first and foremost consult his own mind, his own rational thinking, and base his decisions off that. Reflect on what you want. For a second, pretend as if no one would ever see you, no one would ever know what your decision is for what you want in life, no one would ever know what you do, no one would know a thing. What are the things you would like to do then? What would you really want to do then if no one was there to watch you, to make sure you were living up to their expectations or the rhyme and reason of society? What would you do? And then third, approach relationships with rationality. You have to approach interactions with other human beings with a rational thought process. This interaction in 2 Samuel 13 was pure emotion and hormones, and it led to massive issues and problems. especially down the line with David's children. Huge problems because David could not manage his household and created a generation of people who were behaving improperly who would follow him. Approach your relationships with rationality. Don't be emotional, at least not in the initial stages of it. Put your emotions to the side for a moment. Don't suppress them or do away with them completely, but don't allow them to cloud your thinking in the now. Those are the lessons. Get your mind under command, be aware, think into the future. Reflect on what you want, not on what anyone else wants for you, and approach your relationships with a sense of rationality.